Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Gotham Baseball Live. I'm your host, Mark Healey, and with me, as he is each and every week, my good friend, Peter Schwartz. Good morning, Peter. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good, Mark. It's been a hectic week, a lot of things going on, and of course, timing is everything. So it's interesting that as we record this show, not long before it, we have some Mets news.
Well, the Mets have finally pulled the trigger on Carlos Mendoza. Their official statement was that the Mets announced the departure of Carlos Mendoza as manager of the Mets. I guess this four-game sweep at the hands of the Chicago Cubs at Citi Field was the final straw. But as I posted earlier today, when the reports started to come out, I believe John Heyman had it first, or Mike Puma from the Post. I'm not sure who had it first, but they reported it. Look, to me, what is it? A dollar short and a day late. I guess that's
I think it's the other way around.
a day late and a dollar short. There you go. Thank you,
Yeah,
Peter,
yeah,
for correcting me.
yeah.
Look, I do I think that Carlos Mendoza is the reason why they're terrible? I do not. Someone had to pay the price. Steve Cohen, at least at this point, not ready to pull the rug out from under David Stearns. And let's be honest, David Stearns, as the president of baseball operations, Peter, is responsible. This team is an embarrassment. I wrote this earlier today. I mean, this team is so bad that it has sucked the marrow out of the bones of the most ardent Met fan. If you're a huge Met fan, optimistic, you gotta believe, it ain't over till it's over. Well, it's over. And the
Yeah.
Mets are not, look, and I hate to be that guy, but I mean, Peter, this team is not going anywhere.
It's it was a poorly constructed team. I don't think it looked that way when it was being put together. I think there was a lot of optimism and hope around it. But as it turns out, and look, and ultimately, David Stearns is responsible. He was, he made the choices, to let go of some very popular players in the offseason. A lot of people are, oh, they should have brought back Alonso and whatever. I mean, it's in the past now. There's no way of
Right,
correcting that. But
right.
there will be a point where ultimately David Stearns is going to have to pay the price for this also because he spent a lot of Steve Cohen's money on these players that have not produced. And I think even if you look at the farm system and the players that have been called up, there's been some mixed results from those guys too. But you're right, Carlos Mendoza had to pay the price. I think this was long overdue. And if if you're Carlos, I mean, you have to almost feel a sense of relief
Sure.
that you're not part of this anymore. Still getting paid and now with a chance to explore and see what else is out there. But yeah, this was just a big mess this year. And um again, the next domino to fall has to be David Stearns. Andy Green takes over as the interim manager for the rest of the season. He wasn't even on the field staff. He's vice president of player development. So,
Right.
he's coming into this now to I don't even look Mark as him being the manager for the rest of the season, but I think he's more of like the caretaker or he's
Right.
more of the investigator for the
Right.
rest of the season to report back to David Stearns.
Right.
We should keep this, we should keep that. So I don't think he's going to be a candidate to be the manager, permanently. But I don't look at him as being like, well, you typically the interim manager is somebody who's on the field staff. But
Right.
that's not the case here. So it's more of like I think he's going to take inventory of what the Mets actually have here for the rest of the season.
And I don't even think he's going to have that much of a role, to be honest, Peter. I know that was his role in the front office. That he is evaluator of talent. I get it, but look, like, at the end of the day, David Stearns is the guy that is pulling the strings. No matter what they try to tell us, no matter what, at the end of the day, David Stearns, he hired Carlos Mendoza. He made the moves for the players. He's the one who fired the coaching staff and brought in his coaching staff.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing is working. The fielding is terrible. The pitching is terrible. The hitting approach is terrible. And, for all the complaints that the Yankee fans make about Brian Cashman and Aaron Boone, I would trade for Aaron Boone and Brian Cashman right now in a second.
Yeah,
I would love to
I think
have.
I think this kind of debunks the angry Yankee fans' view of Cashman and Boone because there's just no complaining about it right now.
I mean, look, I get it. I get that Yankee fans are World Series and bust, and a lot of them are. And I look, I don't blame them. If I was a Yankee fan, that's how I would feel. It's like we're the Yankees. We're supposed to win the World Series, and if we don't, the season's a failure. I have no problem with that mindset. Sports is supposed to be, an escape, right, for us from the everyday
Right.
life. And it's just a shame that the day before my birthday, that I am calling it like season over for the New York Mets.
Well, I'll wish you a happy birthday in advance. I'll do it again later, but you try to enjoy your birthday tomorrow and not think about
Oh,
what's
I
going on in
will.
front of
I
you.
certainly will, but I won't be watching the
So,
Mets, that's for sure.
well, there's no question about
Anyway,
it. Well,
we
listen,
have we have much happier news, much happier segue here.
yeah,
We're going to have
let's
our special guest is ready for us, Peter.
yeah, let's talk about the other team in town or the team in town, depending on how you want to view it. A good friend of mine, worked with him at WFAN and part of the Yankees broadcast team, and he's a real big shot now because now he's getting TV time on Yes. And I want to welcome in Yankee broadcaster Emmanuel Berbari. Emmanuel, how you doing?
Great to see you, Peter. I appreciate you saying it. Maybe too kind, but I appreciate that.
And say hello to Mark also, Mark Healey, our co-host.
Mark, great to see you.
What's up, pal?
So, Emmanuel, let's start by taking the temperature of what's going on in the Bronx right now with all the injuries. The Yankees are trying to kind of stay afloat, and I think they've done for the most part a pretty good job. They have the 2-game lead over Tampa. They dropped the game in Boston last night. Cam Schlittler was not on top of his game, but all 4 runs were unearned. Where do you take the temperature? How do you take the temperature of where the Yankees are right now as they wait for some of the injured bodies to come back?
I think they've done more than enough during this time. It's basically the entire month of June now you're looking without Aaron Judge. It's in 21 games. They're 12-9, so they've more than treaded water over this time. And different guys have stepped up. It's not only Judge out, but no Stanton with the setback, no Grisham. He goes down. Max Fried still on the way back. They've had this laundry list of injuries to key guys, and you've gotten a little more from Jazz, even though you had the lollipop gate and situation recently. You've gotten more from Jazz. You've had so much all year from Ben Rice, who's simply an MVP candidate.
Sorry, I thought I'd celebrate Jazz with a lollipop on the show.
There you go. I'm still managing these windows and trying to track everyone, but I see lollipop right there. Paul Goldschmidt has been a godsend for this team, and what he's done, really the biggest bargain in baseball when you consider what they brought him back on and the fact that he turned down other offers to remain a Yankee. So you look across the diamond, they've gotten a lot from different guys just to make way during this time. I don't think there's something where you're going to look up 40, 50 games without Aaron Judge and you're going to be really full and satisfied with the offensive production. There are going to be weeks where they don't hit, and there are going to be weeks where they do. But as long as they do enough, that's what they're trying to do right now. They're trying to bridge the gap, and they've done it so far.
Emmanuel, since they've gotten off, they got off to a good start. They're 5-5 in their last 10. So obviously they're not, as you mentioned with the injuries, they're not running at full steam, but they've created enough of I don't want to say cushion, but they've created enough of a divide between themselves and the Rays and the other teams in the AL East. And certainly, the AL right now does not look like it's highly competitive. It just doesn't. But, the Yankees will take it. They'll take what they can get at this point. The one thing that concerns me, and I'm not sure where you stand on this or where, Peter or the rest of the Yankee fans, where they feel about this, but I feel like Anthony Volpe is really being force-fed into this lineup. He's not very good defensively. His hitting is sporadic. Sometimes it's there, sometimes it's not. And aren't there better options to play at shortstop, so that the Yankees can, at the very least, make sure that, that up the middle defense is better than what it is right now?
Sort of an interesting situation because Volpe for the last week or two, and we've seen these flashes since he's been a big leaguer, his swing looks way more compact. He's spraying the ball all over the field. He's using his legs. He's getting on base. So you look at it and you say, if Volpe could not be that, he's not going to hit 450 all the time over a 2-week span, but be something close to it. That's a great guy for the bottom of your order. I think the Yankees like right now that Volpe playing short gives them the flexibility to move Caballero around. And especially while all these guys are down, that gives the roster just so much more flexibility. Now, if everyone was healthy, maybe you'd have a different idea about it because you don't want Caballero playing left or playing right or playing third or playing second. But right now they have enough injuries. Even Ryan McMahon with that ear and throat infection recently going down. Now you want Caballero at third a little bit more. So it's an imperfect solution right now, but I think they're making the best of the roster given that they don't have everybody and they're not at full strength. I'm really curious to your initial point. I'm really curious that they're going to look up in a few weeks and Volpe is still playing some of the best baseball of his career. If he is, that'll really help this team. And if he's getting on and he's running and he's not swinging for launch angle, but he's shooting the ball to right center field, that's the Anthony Volpe we all dreamt of. But we haven't seen it over a month or 2 months yet. We've only seen it in these 2-week pockets. So I'm curious where we'll be a few weeks from now.
Emmanuel, it's been so much fun to watch Ben Rice play over the first half of the season. And I think even when he started to come up a couple of years ago and then emerged last year and even more so this year, I don't think he was ever looked at. If you go back a few years, he was never really looked at as this can't miss, top Yankees prospect. So it's kind of been a revelation. And to see what he's been able to do, how impressed have you been with him? And I would imagine we're going to see him in Philadelphia at the All-Star game, I would think, right?
I would think that's a lock. I think it's a crime if we don't. But you look at his development, and year one, it's just really raw. You look at him as a slugger. There's a lot of upside. He has that 3-homer game against the Red Sox in July, but it's still a project in my mind. A lot of promise, but a project. Last year, he starts to put it all together, especially down the stretch. You see a glimpse of what he can be, and you look at the overall numbers last year, had a really good offensive season. I'm not sure I ever saw this. The Yankees did, but I'm not sure I ever saw legitimate superstar because that's the number production, however you want to slice it. That's what he's putting up right now. I saw a really good player, a middle of the order bat, but the way he's not a high strikeout guy. He strikes out, but he's not a high strikeout guy at all. He takes his walks. He's going to have a 400 on base percentage. He's a doubles guy. He's a home runs guy. It's not just pulling the ball. It's to all parts of the field. He could be a superstar here. And you look at the numbers, it's basically, considering he's a lefty bat, it's Yordan Alvarez right now. That's what the Yankees have in the middle of their order with Ben Rice. And I never thought I'd be saying that a year ago. I thought I'd be saying he's really good. He's a developmental success story because he's a late round pick, a la Cam Schlittler from the same region, same area in Massachusetts. But I never thought we'd reach this level. And it's been a pleasure to watch because the Yankees have needed all of it.
Not too long ago, Emmanuel, Peter and I were discussing, if David Bednar was going to last as the Yankees closer. And since the end of May, I guess the middle of May, he's really responded and he's really, really has been pitching well for the Yankees, as their closer and really starting to find his groove as a guy who can come in and shut down. That's going to be huge for the Yankees in the postseason. But, the rest of that bullpen still needs to be sorted out. Do you expect, Brian Cashman to start targeting those bridge relievers as soon as this week or the next week before the trading deadline and not wait for the frenzy of relievers that will be on the market?
Considering you just mentioned it at a good time, looking June 26th right now, we're about a month out. I would think the Yankees already have a big board of guys they're targeting for the bullpen, under the radar guys, but also here are our reaches. And everyone brings up a Mason Miller type as the dream scenario, but I'm sure they have a pecking order of guys they're targeting. And I always trust Brian Cashman to A, exhaust all options, but B, if there's any area he's proven over the years, it's bullpen to locate these hidden gems and guys you wouldn't necessarily expect. So I do think they'll bring in a guy or two, but I also think they're going to look to solve some of this internally because when the starting pitching is whole and healthy, Ryan Weathers could go out there as a lefty arm and be electric in that bullpen, and his stuff could even play up. Carlos Legrand, they're grooming as a closer now at the minor league level. And that's just a recent development as of a few weeks ago, where they're trying to make the transition before they bring him up to the big leagues. And also, one other guy that doesn't get as much discussion, Clark Schmidt. And when he comes back later this season, and he's relieved before, when he first came up, he was coming out of the bullpen. He may not have enough time. In fact, he won't have enough time to build up as a starting pitcher this year. They could do it spring training next year. But I think when he's initially back, they slide him right into that bullpen. So those are 3 internal options that could help patch out there on top of whoever they bring in at the trade deadline.
Well, you can have Devin Williams and Luke Weaver back. Just give us a decent prospect. You're going to have those guys.
I'll definitely take Weaver. Who do you want?
Volpe.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah, no thanks.
Well, that would be one of the more interesting trades in sports history, let alone New York baseball history.
We have enough problems.
So we kind of touched on the injuries before. So let's kind of, take a look at, the big names. What are you hearing? Where is Judge, Fried, Stanton, Grisham, if you want to give us a little thumbnail on each one, where do you think they are in the rehab situation, and when can we expect to maybe see them back in the Bronx in pinstripes?
I'd say Grisham is the most imminent. He's with the team in Boston right now, and he's ramping up. I think the rehab assignment, if all goes well, the rehab assignment would be sometime this coming week. So I think we'll be seeing Grisham first out of that group. Then you look at Stanton, it's really TBD, the setback with the calf injury, where they wouldn't necessarily admit it's back to square one, but they're not going to rush Giancarlo Stanton. We've seen it with past injuries, and they're playing the long game looking towards October anyway. I just don't see that happening anytime soon. That's just my read on it. Mm-hmm. Judge, I thought when he first went down, they wouldn't slap a timetable on it. Rightfully so. You want to let it heal first, but we were sort of projecting it out. I'm not looking at anything before August for Judge. I would say it's best case scenario where you're looking early to mid-August, and worst case scenario, the late August, early September. But that's where I'm targeting that broad window for Judge. And Fried's actually doing really well. They're not going to rush any of this, but the bullpens he's thrown so far, he's felt no symptoms. He's felt free and easy. He's felt good to go. And they re-imaged it, and it showed the improvement that they wanted. So I would think it's a steady ramp up from here. Nothing, since we're approaching the All-Star break, nothing before then. But I'd say once we come out of the All-Star break, we'll start hearing more of, okay, we're getting warm with Max Fried, as opposed to it's still a ways off.
Well, look, I mean, it's like one of those things where it must be nice to cover a team and to broadcast for a team that hasn't actually knows what it's doing. That must be a lot of fun. I mean,
it's interesting that we're talking on this day. I was expecting to come on. We'll just do full Yankee baseball. We'll go through the ebbs and flows and how it's going since Judge has gone down. But some big news dropped this morning as you guys were discussing.
Yeah, Emmanuel, why don't we ask you about that? Because you've talked about the Mets a lot on SNY, on Baseball Night in New York. What was your reaction to Carlos Mendoza getting fired?
I thought there were probably 2 other times, including the losing streak early this season, where I thought they might have moved on, and they didn't. So it seemed inevitable. It's just a question of when. But I always looked at it through the lens of, if David Stearns is going to make this move, okay, well, now you're basically getting one mulligan, and that's it. So I thought the timing was always what I was most curious about.
Right.
Now, if the Mets have a horrific second half, if it mirrors what's happened so far this season, the spotlight's on David Stearns way more than it's on anybody in that dugout. I don't look at Carlos Mendoza and think that's a bad manager. I just don't. I think this was a team that was assembled and needed a certain amount of time to gel, and a lot of things went wrong. And then when guys go down, you don't have a chance to mesh at all, and you sort of have this island of misfit toys. So I think it's a Carlos Mendoza situation and profile where he could latch on with another team in the future and be a fine manager.
I don't think there's any question about that. I think that the Yankees would welcome him back with open arms, putting him somewhere in the organization. If he couldn't get a major league job somewhere else. I totally agree with that. Luis Rojas doing a great job with the Yankees as third base coach. So, but here's the thing, when you say that the spotlight's now on David Stearns, it really is. It always has been. I think most people, there are a bunch of Stearns defenders who,
Right.
believe it or not, who think that it's Mendoza's it's Mendoza's fault that the team is terrible. But I think anybody that watches this game on a regular basis, watches this team on a regular basis, knows that that's not the case. Now, certainly somebody has to go. You can't fire the team, and you're not going to fire the president of baseball operations right before the MLB trading deadline. But Mendoza is definitely a guy. I agree with you. Definitely a guy that's going to find a home somewhere else.
Yeah, and it was just a couple of years ago where he was 2 games from the World Series, and we were talking about what a stellar job he had done with the team and bringing them back. So it's baseball. It shows you how quickly things change and how quickly the narratives shift, and a much different team this year than even a year ago or 2 years ago. So any situation like this, it's not black and white. There's a confluence of events that have to take place to fall into the doldrums that they've fallen into. And I think between the underperformance and the injuries, and I always thought they had to get off to a good start this year. Like, it was so important for this group and Mendoza himself to get off to a nice start before the pressure mounted, and they didn't. And you hate to use the word buried in April or May, but that's what they did to themselves. And I think it's really come home to roost.
Emmanuel, can't thank you enough for spending some time with us on the podcast. You do a great job on the broadcast, and looking forward to seeing you in the Bronx very, very soon. I think I'm going on July 5th with my family, so maybe we'll get a chance to say hello that day.
Yeah, we'll definitely say hello. I appreciate you guys having me, and have a good one. Thanks so much.
Take care.
Awesome. Emmanuel Berbari, Yankee broadcaster, joining us here on the show. Before we say goodbye, Mark, I did want to just go in another direction, baseball-wise. Also, you probably saw the news. Trevor Bauer left the Long Island Ducks earlier after making one final start last Sunday, coming off of injury, and he went back to Mexico. They're trying to get a three-peat with that Mexican baseball team that he was with prior, and I guess it's just decided it wasn't. Not that it wasn't working with the Ducks, because he was clearly the best pitcher in the Atlantic League, but he just, he thought maybe coming to the Ducks and being in the New York area would help him. It didn't. There still were no bites on major league opportunity. So go back to Mexico. He's probably going to earn more money there and have a chance to compete for a championship. But I just wanted to say once again, because we've talked about this on the show too, he couldn't have been a better addition to that Ducks team. He pitched well. He was great to the fans, autograph signings, interacting with the fans while in games that he was pitching in as well. So I just want to tip my cap to Trevor Bauer. And look, I think people make mistakes in judgment. I think it came out that maybe everything that happened wasn't all that it really seemed. He should get another shot. I don't know if he's going to get it, but I want to wish him nothing but the best as he goes back to Mexico.
Yeah, and here's the thing, and again, I've saed this before. I said it on the show that day when we had on, our friend from the Ducks there, and we were talking about, Trevor. Look, I said it before, and I'll say it again. I am not a Trevor Bauer guy, but people deserve a second chance, and there have been far worse people that have gotten a second chance.
Yeah,
with a major league team, and I'm not just talking about people. In the front office or managers or things like that. This is a guy that, when I look at the Mets pitching staff and how terrible it is right now. I mean, look, you got to roll the dice. Maybe it won't be with the Mets. I'm not saying I would, go sign Trevor Bauer, but you can't tell me that there's not a team in Major League Baseball that could use a guy like that. And they talk about, the PR. Look, at the end of the day, if a guy produces,
Mark, there was not one complaint from anybody in the community here on Long Island, and that's what I thought when they first signed him that opening night. You know what? Let's see what the reaction is when he's on the mound here in the United States. There was not one complaint, and as you know, I work for the Ducks too. I'm one of their PA announcers, and I asked people in the organization, did anybody complain about him being signed, and there was not one. And when
Right.
when they went on the road and they went to other places, they were packing the stadiums there. Nothing, no complaints. So I just wish the people around Major League Baseball would just, uh,
Yeah.
just come to grips with the fact that there's no public problem with him. Give this guy a chance.
Because MLB is so great at PR, right?
Yeah,
It's so good.
fantastic. And we're not even going to have MLB next year, as it looks like.
Yeah.
But one other quick thing: Wally Backman is back in baseball. He led
Yes,
the Ducks to
yes.
the 2019 championship. He's back in town. He's now the new manager of the Staten Island Ferry Hawks. And man, that team's having some problems. I think they only have 8 or 9 wins on the season. But he's back. Back. He said his battery was recharged and ready to manage again. So now you can go see him manage out there in Staten Island.
Everybody knows how I feel about Wally. Wally is a guy that I've been pushing for and pulling for many, many years. And if anybody can fix the Staten Island Ferry Hawks, it's Wally Backman. Definitely a guy that, if you told me that tomorrow that he was going to be the manager of the Mets, highly unlikely, I would sign up for it. I would be very happy, but it's not happening. So, but look, I'm a big fan of Wally. I'm happy for him that he found a gig with Staten Island, and our good friend over there, Gary Perone, who I've known for 20 years, doing a great job over there in Staten Island. So I certainly hope the best for Wally, for the Ferry Hawks, for Gary, and for all the fans that have continued to support that team.
Yeah, got to get out there to Staten Island. Used to go to Staten Island Yankee games all the time, and we'll get out there when the Ducks are out there. So we're gonna.
It's a beautiful ballpark. It really is.
It is, and they gave it a little bit of a facelift when the Ferry Hawks started because it was kind of sitting there in disrepair.
Well, yeah.
They put all new seats in and gave the place. So I'm looking forward to seeing what it looks like now. So there you go.
Well, that's Gotham Baseball, right? We talk about all the teams, and we'll be talking probably a lot less about the New York Mets as we move forward through the season. But obviously, anytime there's a pennant race in New York, whether it's the Yankees or the Mets, we'll be on top of it here on Gotham Baseball. Peter, have a great weekend.
You too. Take care.
See you next week here on Gotham Baseball Live.